Hey y'all, Irix Guy here, and within this video I'm going to explain step by step how to pack for an overnight backpacking trip. Now for this particular trip I'll be on the Appalachian Trail and I'll be the wilderness guide. So I'll be the person that has the most amount of experience with the area. With that being said, I'm going to pack a very large pack. So a lot of minimalist backpackers may watch this video and say, man, that's too heavy. So just wanted to get that out of the way first. And this will be a very long video. So if you're an impatient type of person, this video may not be for you. But if you want to see it step by step, how I prepare, and again, I'm doing this a week before, or actually a few months before my trip to the Appalachian Trail, because I don't want to forget anything. So the first thing I do is start off with my pack, and you can expand this video's description and then click the link there to find all the gear like I use. But the first thing I do is start out with an empty pack. So I've taken everything out of my pack, and everything except for this. I never take this out of my pack. This is my magnesium fire starter. It stays permanently attached inside of my pack in case I ever encounter a situation where I've got to create fire effortlessly. So we're going to start out step by step. What I recommend doing is creating a list. And for the list, what I do, I simply use the notes feature on my phone. So I can go into that and then I can start out with the basic stuff. So I've got a list of some essentials. One of those essentials is toilet paper. You can get the minimalist version of toilet paper, which is something like this, that's in a semi-waterproof or water-resistant housing. That's good, but for me, I like to take the big roll. Again, this is a luxury. This is still a luxury as well, because if you're if you're really hardcore, you probably wouldn't even use toilet paper. You just use leaves. Just don't use poison ivy. But I like to take both. And I've got the dry toilet paper, or the toilet paper that should say dry, and then the regular toilet paper. But we're gonna pack that in a minute. The next thing, of course, is charging for my technology. So inevitably, we probably need technology in the wilderness. So for that reason, what I do, this cable right here, I'm gonna put aside. It's very long, and I don't need that much length. So for my iPhones, I've got two. If you've ever used an iPhone, you probably know that iPhone cables typically fail, so I take a backup. That's my primary device. It's also what I use for my GPS app, so I want to make sure I've got that recharged. So I'm going to put two lightning cables in here. USB-C is in Charlie. This microphone that I'm recording this with, this is the same equipment that I'll be taking into the wilderness. It uses USB-C to recharge. So I've got a USB-C recharging cable. Apple Watch. Always wear this to track my workouts and also use it for my wilderness adventures. So I need to take my Apple Watch charger. Sony Alpha camera that I'm using to film this, and I'll be taking in the backcountry also. It uses USB-C, but it can also use a micro USB style connector. So that's what I've got here is the micro USB. I'm going to take it also. What I always recommend doing is getting a small stuff sack for your cables. That way you don't have cables tangling up other stuff that's inside of your pack. What I do with these, I also always put them somewhere that's easily accessible. So for my particular pack, that'll be inside of the zippable area that's in the top part. So I'm going to put those in there. That's super important. So those are my recharging cables. Now, recharging cables don't do any good unless you have a battery bank. So what I do is take a battery bank such as this, and you can find it linked within this video's description too. This is a cool battery bank because not only do you have one USB port for recharging devices, you have two. And then this thing is a solar panel. So when you're out in the wilderness, the sun, and it's kind of slow, but the sun can recharge the battery in here. So in theory, you've got off-the-grid power that'll continue to renew itself thanks to the sun. This is a 20,000 milliamp charger. So if you look at battery sizes, this size battery is significant. So I never leave without this. The second thing I do, I always want redundancy. So I take a second, this is a battery bank, but it's also a very bright light. So kind of a dual purpose device. If this battery bank fails, I've got a backup, but I've also got a light for the camp. And it's not too big and it's not too heavy. So I'll take those. And then obviously, the one thing you wouldn't want to forget is a light. I typically take this headlamp, and again, you can find it linked within this video's description. The reason I do, USB rechargeable. So I can use that battery bank to recharge my headlamp, which is super convenient. So you definitely want lights. You want fire starting capability. So for that, redundancy is always key. So I test my lighters. I take 3 lighters. That way, if one runs out of fuel, I've got 2 backups. Also, I take this, and this is super important. This is a bellows. Basically intensifies air that you blow on the fire, puts in that little pinpoint, and you know, if you're having trouble starting a fire, this is a way to accelerate that flame rapidly. So never leave without this. All of this stuff and this emergency toilet paper, I put it in this top zippered area. Also in the top zippered area, I put this. This is just a very lightweight dry bag in a stuff sack. And why this is important, if it starts raining, even though my particular pack is highly water resistant, I never trust it. So I keep this in my top pouch area. And should it start raining, I've got quick access. You know, just put my pack down, reach behind my head, pull this out, and wrap my Sony Alpha camera in this to better protect it from rain. Even though this pack should be waterproof, again, I never trust it because that is expensive electronics. So I've got that in there. Always check your checklist as you go. So I've got my checklist on my phone. I'm going to put a check beside toilet paper. I'm going to put a check beside flashlight. But I'm not going to put a check beside flashlight yet because I charged those the day before. So I don't put a check there. The same with the battery bank. I don't put a check. The lighters I can put a check because I feel fairly confident that these lighters won't fail in a month. So I've got those 3 packed. Another thing that's important, and this is something I highly recommend. A lot of people will call me lazy and say that it's excessive to pack that. These right here are just simple fire starters. You just light the bag. Quick way to get things going. If things are wet and it would be challenging to start a fire, this is just a quick way to get a fire going. So fire starter, I've got those. And then obviously you're going to want let's see, your tools are going to be essential. So the tools that I take, take this right here. I take this is a chainsaw, and it works. It looks gimmicky, but it's not. It's a chainsaw, and it folds up, and this has saved me so many times with sawing larger logs. Deadfall, of course. Never chop down live trees. That'll get you booted out of most any wilderness area. So this is a necessity. Always carry it. This particular one comes with a nice stuff sack, and again, you can find it linked within this video's description. I take a lightweight but well-made knife, because you always need a knife. And then, this is really cool. This is a saw. So if I'm not using my pocket chainsaw, I can use this. If it's a smaller limb or something of deadfall, this is probably what I would reach for instead of the chainsaw. The chainsaw I would usually reach for for good-sized deadfall logs. But I like this because it just folds up and you don't have to put it in the case. So those are tools that I carry. And that stuff we're going to go ahead and actually pack here in a second. We're about to get into the loading of the pack. Those electronic items that we already went over, the flashlights, the battery banks, that sort of stuff, with exception of the cables. I'm not going to pack the battery banks and the flashlights until I charge them the day before the backpacking trip. So another thing that we need a stove and fuel, because you got to cook. And if you don't have that, you're not going to be cooking. Well, I mean, you could cook on a campfire, but I prefer to use a stove. So let's see, I'm going to get my stove out here. And not just a stove, but you're going to need cookware for your stove. So I'm getting my stove. Still finding it. Okay, so you're going to need not just a stove. And this stove I've had this thing for like 20 plus years. It's great. This little stove right here is super small, super lightweight, but it's made in Sweden. And basically all you do is just screw this on. And then screw that onto your fuel. Don't forget your fuel, because if you just take the stove, it's not going to get you anywhere if you don't have the fuel. Super great way to boil water. Obviously, I boil water. I purify out of paranoia, and we're going to get to that in a second. I purify water first just to get some of the sediment out, and it should probably be safe to drink just with the purifier. But to be extra safe, I then boil the water and then put it in my dehydrated meals. So we're going to go ahead and pack our stove, and I'm going to have, if I have room, I'll take an extra fuel canister. Most of the time, one fuel canister is going to be enough for me. I've had this one for a while, but I think it's probably still be okay. So definitely, if in doubt, buy a new fuel canister before your trip. Now, obviously, if my stove and my fuel didn't work, I should be able to get a fire going, but it's so much more convenient to have that. The other thing is your cookware. You want to make sure you've got a good set to boil water in. Cook soup or whatever you're doing. This little kit right here is very compact, and what I like about it is that I've got, and this is clean, I cleaned it, but I've got one bowl, and then I've got another bowl, and this bowl even has a thing around it, so if it's hot, it can better prevent it from burning your hands. So I've got that bowl, and then also in here, I've got, the same thing, just in a different color. So 4 bowls total. And obviously this pot that's nice, I can boil water in, it's got a lid. And then this right here, just when it's in transport, holds it all together. This also holds water, which is nice. So a quick way to scoop water out of a stream and then pour into this to boil. So I've got that. And that should be on, again, on my list. Fuel stove, yep, got that on there. And what we're going to do now is we're going to pack. We're going to start packing some of this stuff so y'all can see. If I have room, I always like to take some hand sanitizer. That's nice to have. This right here is my pump that I purify with. It's very small. It's very lightweight. So, you know, when I'm out in the field and I need to purify water from a stream, this is my go-to for that. Obviously, just put that in the stream, open this up. It's labeled. It says out and in. So the in would be the stream. And then this goes out. I can pour this into whatever. I like this again because it should, and again, I don't trust filters, just personal preference. It should make the water safe to drink. But the main thing for me is that it takes the sediment out. So after I pump it through this into that before I boil it, it's clear looking water. So I don't have all the sand and dirt, which is nice because, I mean, I eat dehydrated meals when I'm in the backcountry. And I don't want all that extra flavor in my, you know, in my meals. So this is nice because this just goes back in here, this little sack. So that's my pump. So what I'm going to do is put all this food stuff together. And since it doesn't need to be in a dry bag, what I'm going to do is just use a see-through stuff sack for that. So I'm going to put my fuel in there. And then I'm going to put, I may actually be able to get by with the smaller stuff sack for this. We'll see. And my stove, and then my water filter. And honestly, for that, for the cooking stuff, probably a good idea to throw my hand sanitizer in with that, so I know. Because a lot of times with backpacking, you know, you want these see-through sacks. These are nice when you don't need to keep stuff waterproof because you can see what's in there. And I can pull this out when I'm getting ready to cook, and I know that you know, I know that I'll find that in there. Since that's not waterproof, but my backpack should be highly water resistant, I'm going to put one of my fire starter logs in here. That way I've got one in with my food stuff. The other thing I want to put in with my food stuff are utensils. So for that, what I will put in there is, let's see. I've got to get my utensils. They're here because I just had them. And see, this is why it's important to pack ahead of time, because if you can't find something quickly, it can create lag time, and you don't want any lag time. I think I just heard them. Here they are. These things are super great. They're sporks, and they're made out of titanium. Obviously already cleaned them. They're good to go. So I'll put those down in there. What I also have for redundancy, should my primary water filter fail, I've got this one right here that you can pretty much just stick in the stream and drink out of. And it's, I mean, again, you want to have, whenever possible, have redundancy. So I'm going to put that in there in case I need it. Since this is my food bag, I'm also going to put an extra lighter that I have. Make sure it works, make sure it's cooled off. And a book of matches. So that is, y'all look at that and be like, man, that's overkill. Hey, that's perfectly fine if you feel that way, because I'd rather have, I'd rather know I've got it than to be uncertain. So I've got that in there. I'm going to check these off because I'm about to put them in my backpack. So I got water filter, stove, fuel, and then I got the fire starter in there, and then the cookware, which is right here. And the other good thing about these stuff sacks like this that are see-through is that the air can also go through, so it's gonna, you know, when it's in your pack, it can become more compressed along with the other stuff that's in there. So the next thing, and something you never want to do, is put your sleeping bag in until the day of, because your sleeping bag, especially if you're using a down bag, you don't want it to stay compressed for a long time. It can lose its warmth if it stays compressed for a long time. So for that reason, what I do, all of this kind of stuff, I'm just going to put it aside, and then that way I know, hey, this is going to go in my pack in a month, you know, when I go to the Appalachian Trail. So I've got all this ready, all the cooking supplies, the toilet paper. This is an important one because you don't want, this wet is worthless. So what I'm going to do is get a, let's see which one I use for this. This right here is a dry bag. So this is not just a stuff sack, but it's also, well, it's not completely waterproof because it doesn't seal off, it doesn't cinch off like a, you know, like a proper dry bag. But if you put this in there, it's going to be pretty water resistant, especially in a pack that's supposed to be waterproof. So what we're going to put in this is a couple things. We're going to put this right here. These are rain pants. Obviously, if it starts to rain, you need a pair of rain pants to keep you to keep you dry. You know, you don't want to get wet, especially in cold weather. Getting wet can be deadly. So put that in there, and then I've got my rain jacket. Again, all this gear is lightweight, so I can take it and not have to worry about anything that's too big or too heavy. So for this, I just roll it up as good as I can, and then stick it in my dry or somewhat dry stuff sack. I mean, again, this is not waterproof, but it's pretty good for that. And then on top of that, what I'm going to put in here is a toilet paper. And this is something that I've learned from personal experience. You probably want to keep this towards the top of your pack, because if you got to go to the bathroom, you don't want to have to dump all your stuff out of your pack to get your toilet paper. So I know that rain gear and toilet paper's together. See, that's an important sack right there. So I'm going to put this to the side, and I'm going to check off that I have rain gear. I've got the jacket, the pants, and then the toilet paper. So that's all in there together. So that's good to go. The next thing that we're going to get to is obviously the tent me see, the tent, which is got a couple of options with it. Depending upon how much gear I have to carry being the wilderness guide, I may have to lash this to the bottom, even though this is an enormous pack that I have. But I think just to have that extra space, I think I'm actually going to lash it to the bottom. This is a 2-person tent, so, you know, I will, it is quite larger than my 1-person tent, so I'm going to always, these strings, if you're carrying it outside of your pack, always stick those strings inside and then use the little doohickey to tighten it. Because if that string's dangling while you're hiking, it's something that can get hung up on branches and everything, cause you to fall. And if it doesn't cause you to fall, it could cause your tent to snag on a branch or a vine, and then you know, potentially rip it. And then, you know, then you're in a situation where you're out in the woods, and it's doable, no problem, but you may not prefer to sleep outside of a tent. So if you damage your tent, it could be a less pleasant night. So with this, I've got a few options. I think what I'm going to do this trip is I'm going to lash it on the bottom of the pack, because this does take up quite a bit of volume inside of the pack. But I mean, again, this is a huge pack, but playing the role of wilderness guide this trip, I need as much extra internal space as I can get. And I mean, I'm packing with a lot of luxury items. I mean, you know, a minimalist backpacker is probably not going to take all the stuff that I am, but, you know, again, I just, you know, I want to have a bunch of cool stuff, and you know, if I can carry it, I'll carry it. So see, I lashed this on the bottom of the pack without a problem. And see, I can tighten that down and make it fit in there great. So I've got that down there. So I've got my tent, so I can check my tent off. So it's ready. I mean, this thing's huge. It's probably crazy I put the tent on the bottom, but it is what it is. So another thing that's important is safety. So this right here, and I'm not going to put the top on it, this is an air horn. I don't want to put the top on because I don't want it to accidentally go off. This is definitely an item that you want to have quickly accessible, and for that reason, where I'm going to put the air horn is in the, not the zippered area, but in this main top compartment. I'm going to put the top of the air horn and the air horn in there. If there's a bear, that's a quick thing to screw on and you know, and tell the bear, hey, you know, go away. The next thing, and always keep this quickly accessible as well, is bear spray. So my bear spray is right here on the outside of the pack in a carrier. Should I encounter a bear that's threatening, I can pull this out, pop the safety off, and spray. Don't spray the bear, just spray the ground, and don't spray yourself, because then you're going to be in a bad situation. But spray the ground kind of in front of the bear, and that'll hopefully deter the bear. So I keep that quickly accessible. Also, and a lot of people have mixed opinions about this little bell, I keep a bear bell on the outside of my pack, because while I'm hiking, it creates that noise which may better deter a bear from wanting to come close to you. I mean, bears, black bears especially, typically want to stay away from humans. But again, I use the word typically very cautiously, because, you know, bears are wild, and, you know, you're in their habitat. So, you know, you got to respect that. And but anything you can do proactively like a bear bell that may better prevent a bear from being curious and wanting to mess with you, I feel is a good proactive measure. But, you know, some people may disagree with me, and that's fine. So, okay, so we got our bear spray and our bear horn. The tools, I'm going to check those off. I've got the knife. This knife, I'm actually going to go ahead and put in my zippered area, because this is obviously not a self-defense knife. It's just something that I need for miscellaneous things. I mean, you always need a good knife in the woods. It's small, it's lightweight, it locks. The same thing with the pocket chainsaw. I'm going to put it in this area up here where it's quickly accessible, and then also the bigger saw, I'm going to put it up here where it's quickly accessible for chopping, not chopping wood, but sawing wood. So we got those items. We're going to check those off. And then let's see. And again, this checklist is super important, and and I repeat, do not check off until you've put it inside of your pack, because otherwise, you know, it's not there. So I know I've got to go back. I've got to get my flashlight after it's charged, my battery bank after it's charged. Okay, so now we're going to do a cold weather gear. So this is when you're at your camp, and you know you want to suit up to stay warm. There's several things that you may opt to do for this, and we're going to go through what I like here. So this is and again, not waterproof, but highly water resistant thing. One thing I want for sure is a neck gaiter. If it gets really cold, you know, you want to have your neck covered. An extra pair of very nice socks. I really love the Smartwool socks, super warm. Hand warmers. These are great to throw down in your sleeping bag. Check the date. If you've ever had some of these that you haven't used in a few years, check the date, because if they're out of date, they may not warm as well. These are perfectly in date. So I've got that. I've got a pair of gloves, Polartec gloves. Let's see. And then I got to grab some other stuff from over here. Oh, I'll go ahead and stage this. This is my 0 degree bag. So I'll take it to the Appalachian Trail just like this, but obviously making sure I've got its stuff sack inside, which I do. So that'll travel just like that. Again, you don't want to compress that until the day of the hike. Let's see. Trying to find, I've got a beanie. You got to have a beanie. Here's what I was looking for right here. These are great. These are, I think it's a Polartec material, but these socks, super warm to sleep in. So probably what you'll want is, and this right here is a pair of tights, but they're super compact. But you can put these on, put them under your pants for extra warmth. So I've got my neck gaiter, I've got my tights, I've got my gloves. I've got my hand warmers. Instead of the hiking socks, I'm going to use these right here, which are more like a Polartec. These are great for sleeping in. So I'm going to put these in there. And then what you may want to do to go over the tights is have a pair of fleece pants. So these are fleece. Yep. Fleece pants to go over the tights. And you could even put your pair of other pants over these if you wanted to. So you could have tights, fleece, and then regular hiking pants. So this is all super important right here. You can see all of this will just, let's see, let me better organize this here. See, this stuff gets it, and that's why it's important with gear that you pack this in advance, because this stuff, even though it's highly compressible, when you get the good gear like this, it adds up. And I mean, again, every ounce and every liter of space counts. So, you can see already, I mean, I'm getting a lot of stuff to pack. I've got a lot of stuff to pack already. But these stuff sacks are essential because, again, it packs it down more than it would be if you just threw it in there, and it keeps things organized. So, I see this blue sack. I know that's the sleep sack, and I get my sleeping stuff out of it. So we can check these things off that are in that. Let's see, gloves. I've got to find the beanie. I didn't have the beanie in there. The neck gaiter I did, so I've got that. And then instead of wool socks, I'm going to call that Polartec socks, because those aren't my hiking socks. Those are just sleeping socks. So I've got that in there. And I'm putting all these stuff sacks on the floor beside me that I've packed, because I know that'll go into this pack. Okay, so now we're going to get into some other stuff here. These right here are really cool, and actually I could have added, and I'll add these to my cooking bag. These are body wipes, so it's kind of like, let's just call it's like a big baby wipe. So you can wipe yourself down, give yourself a bath of sorts, before you cook dinner, which is kind of cool. So I'm going to put those in there. Heck, I'm going to put 4 of them. Won't hurt to have an extra. So just a good way to feel clean at the campsite. Let's see. So let's see, that goes. And you want to keep this stuff grouped. A better thing you may want to do is what I'm doing. As you go through, buy dry bag, tell where everything is. I'm going to call that body wipes. So I added body wipes, and I also added hand sanitizer, because I've got that in this. And again, this stuff, I don't care if it gets wet. I mean, I don't want it to get wet. It's going to be inside of my pack. But I can look in and I can quickly see what's in here. So I put cookware, but I'm also going to add utensils, because I got the 2 sporks. And then, yeah, I got everything inventoried on my notes. So I've got that. The rain gear, of course, for it, we got the jacket, the pants, and the toilet paper. That's in the in this green sack right here. Looks big, but it's really lightweight. But again, this will take up considerable amount of volume. This is 9 liters right here. These are labeled, which is nice. So that's a 9 liter, and then this one is a 4 liter. But you can see how it'll add up quickly. And see, we've done all of this and we haven't done, so that's the sleeping gear. What we haven't done, and obviously on the hike out, you know, you'll wear a shirt and stuff, but typically what I like to do when I get to camp is I like to have another pair of clothes. So I think, let's see, what am I going to do here? We get another stuff sack. That stuff sack's really big. I'm bothered that I haven't found that beanie yet. Let's see. It's over here somewhere. That is crazy, because I had it over here. These things right here are probably overkill. These really heavily insulated pants. And that's overkill because they're bulky even when they're compressed. And I can just layer to get the same, probably the same result of warmth. The same level of warmth, rather. This is optional, but since I've got a 0 degree bag, probably won't pack it. But this is a fleece liner for a bag, so it'll it'll make the bag even warmer. I'm just going to have it with me just in case, but unless the weather is going to be below 0, I'm not going to take it. Sleeping pad. Again, something that's optional. Thing with the sleeping pad, it not only helps with it not only helps you to stay warm, but it not only helps you to stay comfortable because it's padded, but a thing that a lot of people don't realize is that these often help you to stay warmer as well. And I don't think this particular one has insulation rather, but some of them do. The reason I was opening this, I was seeing if my pillow was in with this, because, you know, I use a pillow and then also the sleeping pad. So I'm gonna have to put my eyes on that pillow, because that's an item you get out there and you realize you didn't bring it, and then it's not as comfortable. Often I pack the pillow in my tent, in with my tent or in with my sleeping bag, but since I have multiple tents and multiple sleeping bags, that's something I need to inventory. So this right here, I'll go ahead and inventory it, and it is the sleeping pad. So I've got the sleeping pad, and then over here, obviously, I've got the sleeping bag, which will not be compressed. I need to add sleeping pillow. And so you can quickly see why, if you didn't plan ahead, that it would be easy to forget stuff. So where is the pillow? That's a great question. So I'm going to have to find that, but that'll be after this video. The next thing we need, obviously, is food. And this is a matter of personal preference, but I will tell you, from what I've found, this lasagna is next to impossible to beat. This is 2.5 servings, which for 2 people is, I mean, it's probably sufficient. I mean, this is a generous serving size. Gravy and biscuits, same thing. I found it to be more than enough for 1 person. So that'll be dinner and breakfast. If you want a treat, you can do, this apple crisp is really good. But I'm going to keep those 2 as optional. These will be the 2 required ones. Now, in addition to this, obviously, I pack a lot of beef jerky. The good thing about the Appalachian Trail is that there's a ton of places up there in, actually in Gatlinburg that sell beef jerky. So you can get some really good stuff. For that reason, I'm going to add beef jerky to my list, but I'm not going to pack the beef jerky until I'm actually there. And let's see. So I'm going to put food, freeze-dried. I've got that. And then beef jerky. That'll have to be added. Beef jerky, snacks, you want some candy, that sort of stuff. Because you will be burning a ton of calories. But I've got the freeze-dried food, the snacks, and then I take a little bit of bottled water, and then I take a soft drink or 2. And then maybe a Gatorade. But obviously, purify and get more. But if you got room and you can handle the weight, I enjoy having the convenience of having my own beverages there. So you should think, okay, so I'm hiking out. What's the chain of events? Well, I'm hiking out. It starts raining. What am I going to do? Okay, I've got my rain gear. My rain jacket, my rain pants. I'm good with that. I've got my dry bag for my camera, so my camera shouldn't get wet. I put it in the dry bag, put it in my pack. Well, what if I fall in a stream when I'm crossing the stream? That means that I need another pair of pants. Well, I've got my Polartec pants and the tights that are in with my sleeping gear, but I probably want to keep that dry so that when I sleep, I don't have sweat or anything. I mean, those are quick drying, and typically if you manage to get a fire going, you can dry out pretty quickly, but I don't want to use that until I sleep. So what can I take as a change? Something I like to do, and I'm going to pull it out right now. Let's see. So this will be, if you had a mishap on the way to camp, or if you just want to change once you get to camp. So it is going to be cold. This right here is awesome. This is a, let's see what this is made out of. 90% polyester. Just a really good long sleeve shirt. Dries quickly. This is a must. Once I get to the campsite, even if I don't get wet on the hike out, this is something I'll change into. So, dry, long sleeve, good base layer. So I've got that. Well, what if it's a little bit colder? Well, then I need something to go over that. And it's going to be cold. So to go over that, what I'll pack is a fleece. So I've got that right here. And since this has been over there, I want to make sure, always inspect your clothing to make sure you're not carrying spiders out with you. So that's not fun to put on a shirt and have a spider bite you. So, yep, turn that inside out. That looks good. Let's see. Okay, so we got a long sleeve lightweight shirt, a fleece that can go over it. Let's see what this is made out of. Polyester, nylon, and spandex. So it's small and lightweight. That'll be easy to put over. And put that there. That's going to go with that shirt. Obviously, something else you would want would be a dry pair of socks. But actually, the dry pair of socks would be optional because I have that sleeping pair of socks that I can change into and just dry my, if my socks got wet, dry them kind of far away from the campfire. You don't want them to burn. And then, then you've got, what am I trying to say? Then you've got a dry pair of socks the next morning. So for this, I'm going to put this down in here. So I've got, I'll just call it long sleeve base layer. So long sleeve base layer shirt. And then one long sleeve fleece. And then my long sleeve base layer shirt. And do you need another pair of pants? You know, probably not, because, you've got, well, you got your sleeping pants. I guess you could pack another pair of pants. And actually, I may do that. Let me see how the weight is here. Now the other pair of pants is up to you. But I think I've got let me see, I've got a really lightweight pair here. Yeah. Yeah, these are very small, packable, quick drying. If I did fall into a stream or something and I did need another pair, I can use those. Actually, those I've got to find the belt for. So I found my beanie, and this is super important because, it's amazing how warm this on your head can keep you, especially when you're sleeping. So since I found it, I'm going to go into my not sleeping bag, but bag that I put together for sleeping gear. And I'm going to put it in there. And again, keeping everything together like this, anticipating what you're going to need, when you're going to need it, is a major convenience. Because when you're going through your pack, you want to be able to reach and grab exactly what you need. So now I know this is my sleeping stuff. So when I get ready to go to sleep, I know I've got everything I need in here to stay warm while sleeping. Put that down there, and I'm going to check off beanie. So I've got it. And then we were talking about pants. So this right here is an extra pair of pants that I've got, and these are very lightweight. But again, if I put tights underneath them, and then if I wanted to take it to an extra level and layer them with those fleece, the fleece that I got are a size up, so technically I could put those over it, so I could have tights, then I could have these, and then I could have fleece over that if I wanted to. But I've also got a very nice hiking pant for the next day, assuming that my hiking pants from the previous day, maybe I fell in a stream or something and they got wet. This will give me a dry pair of pants. And it's very small, very lightweight. So easy to put in with my gear there. And there's actually extra space in there, so I could take, you don't want to take unnecessary stuff, but what I could do, I could save that space for maybe some of my setup stuff, like my light that I have for the tent. So that's got a change of clothes. What I don't have is a warm weather jacket. So for that, I'm going to take two options. So I've got a couple of options depending upon how cold it is. So I've got this fairly small and fairly lightweight down jacket that would layer nicely over the base layer shirt that I've already packed, and then also the fleece on top of it. So this would layer nicely, but if it's going to be a little bit extra cold, I might would want to go with this one that's a little bit bulkier, but has a lot more warmth. So I'll take both of these, and these are down. One is more down, and this one's actually 100% synthetic, but it's extremely warm. So I'll just take both of these, and should I check the weather the day before and see what I want, the lighter down synthetic or the heavier down synthetic, depending upon how cold it's going to be. And then obviously that, I wouldn't hike wearing it because I get too hot. But I'll have it, and I won't compress it in advance because like a down sleeping bag, you don't want to keep these things compressed. So I'll just grab these and, and stuff them the same time that I stuff my sleeping bag. And actually for that, what may be a good idea, here's my 0 degree sleeping bag, so I keep it all together. I think what I'm going to do is just stuff these in there for now, and then that way it's all together, and I won't forget those jackets, because that's a key component. You want to make sure that you've got a jacket to keep you warm, because if you don't, you literally could freeze to death. Especially I know the Appalachian Mountains aren't super intense, but they are super intense if the weather conditions are right. So you've always got to be prepared. So that's got us through a lot of the stuff here. And I didn't really, warm weather gear was not applicable because it's going to be, between 0 and, more than likely between 0 and 30 degrees Fahrenheit. The sleeping pillow I've got to locate, and that's something that's important for me. Again, that's a lot of people would consider that to be a luxury item for camping, but it's one of those things I like to have a good night's rest. And I should have that thing somewhere, and I'm feeling stupid. I got all this gear, and I can't find a silly pillow. But I know that I've got it because I used it the last time I went backpacking. So that'll be something that I will have to find. And I bet it's in it may be in with my tent, my other tent. But anyway, that's a challenge for another time. So, oh yeah, one other thing, and this is super important. Paracord. I never go anywhere without paracord, and this sack that it's in, I can take it out of that. But paracord is so important when you're in the wilderness. So for that reason, I'm taking this entire thing of paracord. This paracord I like because it's really bright. I don't think this is glow in the dark, but you can use this for backcountry repairs. You can use this for, you know, maybe you want to set up an early warning system. Put something on it so it'll jingle around, like maybe this backpacking bell, so you'll know if somebody's approaching. There's a lot of things you can do with paracord. So, and I like the bright color because it's easy to, let's see, is this glow in the dark? No, it's not glow in the dark. It just looks like it could be, but it's not. So that can actually go in with, I'll just put it in with my change of clothes and stuff. Because if I'm getting that out because I fell in a stream or something, there's a possibility that I could have broken could have broken something and might need some paracord for repair. So put that in with that. Let's see. So I've got that in there. And then the food, like I said, I'm going to add the food in about a month before I do this. And then obviously the flashlights and the battery banks and all that, I'll charge those up, you know, a day or so before the backpacking. But I know this has been a long and drawn out video, but you know, the main thing is just to illustrate that this is not a quick and easy process. I mean, it can be easy, but it's not it shouldn't be a quick and easy process. So, you know, you should plan ahead, because even by doing this and by having the checklist, inevitably, I'm going to discover things that I failed to include. And it's better to make those discoveries while you're at home base instead of being out in the backcountry and not having it. You know, once you're in the backcountry, having those luxuries is not an option. You know, you've got what you took, and that's it. But you can see this pack that I'm using is absolutely enormous, and that's only because I'll be the wilderness guide for this trip. So I'll put my sleeping bag at the bottom, and then I'll put my other gear on top of that, and I'll have plenty of extra room, both inside this large cavity that's highly water resistant, and then also inside of here, which this cavity right here is big, more volume than most common packs. So I mean, that's huge. And on the outside of that, I've got this, and then I can cinch all of this down once I load everything up to make it really, really secure. So it's, you know, it's good to be prepared. And you know, again, a lot of y'all would look at this and say, man, you know, you're taking way too much, and I respect that, because there's different styles of backpackers. And you know, the thing is, if you plan ahead and you pack properly, you can take a good bit of gear, even more than you might need. And one of those more than I might need type items, I'll show you that now. So I've got this right here. These are gloves, just work gloves that I carry. So I like to have those because I'm highly allergic to poison ivy and stuff. Now, granted, once you've used these, if you've touched poison ivy, you can get poison ivy from touching these. But it's just better peace of mind when I'm out there grabbing branches and stuff, deadfall to start a fire. It's good to know I've got something on my hands that, and maybe if I reach down, there's a spider or something, you know, maybe it can't bite me through this leather. So, you know, just a good, simple luxury to have. So I will take these, and I'll just put them in my top top thing where I can reach in and grab stuff. And then also, and these next two things are real luxury items. This is a highly compressible but capable cooler. So what I often do, I'll freeze like a 20-ounce sports drink, like a Gatorade or something. I'll freeze a couple of those and put them in here. And what that'll do is that'll function as ice to keep other things in here cold. So, you know, if it's warm weather and I want to refrigerate, say I'm not doing freeze-dried food and I want to refrigerate a steak. Well, I could have a steak frozen, wrapped in a plastic bag in the middle, surrounded by frozen Gatorades, and it would, you know, it should keep that thing, and this is insulated, it should keep it mostly frozen throughout my hike. So then I've got a really nice, already marinated steak when it thaws beside the campfire that evening. Another thing I could do is do the same concept, do the same technique, but instead of having the steak in the middle, I could have frozen Gatorades, and then I could have maybe some hot dogs or maybe some canned soda in there, you know, 2 or 3 canned sodas. So again, total luxury, but something that, you know, you may want to take. What I like about this, and you can find it linked within this video's description too, is that there's a space here where I can put, you know, some paper towels for cleaning up and staying clean. And then obviously those are safe to burn. They're just paper towels. I can burn those and don't have to take them back. This is a total luxury. This is a foldable stool. So if I discover that I don't have a lot of excess weight in my pack, and I've got the ability to put this in, this is something I can choose to put in there. And this is just a stool to sit beside the campfire. But I may opt to not take this, depending upon how the weight and everything is. But again, if size and if the capacity of the pack and the weight allows, I'll probably choose to take that with me. But you know, that's got our food, that's got our stove, that's got our you know, some, you know, things like toilet paper, you know, the cold weather gear for sleeping, the chainsaw and the knife and the saw for, you know, for gathering deadfall, the you know, the protection from bears, the bear spray and the air horn, the freeze-dried food. And again, obviously this won't go into the pack until a few days prior to the backpacking trip, but you know, it's good to plan ahead, you know, because you can see how, like me, that beanie, has something as simple as not being able to find that beanie. Had I not found that, or I forgot to take it, you know, that's something that provides a tremendous amount of warmth while in the backcountry. So, you know, plan ahead, and if you can't find something, maybe you'll have time to buy it before you go out in the backcountry. But yeah, just take a list, create a list, and again, don't check off until you've got it actually packed and ready to go. And again, I consider these packed and ready to go because they're in my staging area, and you know, and they'll go into this pack, you know, when it's time to go on the trip. But anyway, hope this video is of value. I hope you found it to be entertaining, educational, maybe a combination of both. Tell me what you think within the comment section below, and be sure to subscribe. And when you do, ring that bell icon to be notified whenever I post another video. And check the links within this video's description to find a variety of camping gear, as well as videos from my multiple backpacking adventures. Thanks for your viewership, and y'all have a good day. Hey y'all, Captain Irix Guy here. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to subscribe. It's youtube.com/Irix Guy. And ring that bell icon when you do to be notified whenever I post another video. Thanks for your viewership, and y'all have a good day.